The site in question is 20/22 Queensway, the site of the former Rooke. The area is considered prime land. It's at the edge of town. It remains largely unused. Over the years, many have been the proposals which have been presented. None have ever materialised. In recent months, we've seen the development of a tiny portion. It now accommodates the new elderly care home. Today at the DPC, developers presented plans to develop the larger parts of the plot. Speaking on behalf of their client, Carlton Properties, WSRM Architects described the project as a city within a city. The development is a mixed-use one. It would be made up of residential and commercial units. These would be sited at the corner of the plot nearest to the Edinburgh estate. WSRM say this would be the high-rise part of the development and that it would only occupy 19% of the total footprint. WSRM accentuated the most important aspect of the development, however, would be the leisure areas. This would consist of sports facilities, paddle courts, and the remainder would be a park for public use. The park would be 20% larger than Commonwealth Park. All in all, the leisure areas would occupy more than 11,700 square metres, 81% of the total footprint. WSRM say the leisure areas would help create a green lung in the heart of town. The green areas would stand 3 stories high. Concerns were raised about the wall effect that would be created in the area. Members of the DPC also challenged the idea that the public would flow into landscaped areas sited 3 stories above street level. Others lamented there had been no attempt to physically interconnect Campion Park with the new green areas and asked the developer to work harder to try and achieve this, and that way link the old part of town with the new. The DPC raised a number of other concerns. Questions were raised as to whether the siting of the high-rise aspect of the project was a correct and most appropriate one, with concerns it would deprive Edinburgh Estate of sunlight. There were also concerns in regard to traffic management, the visual impact on surrounding areas, and wastage. But perhaps the greatest concern was the number of parking spaces which the new development would create. According to the developer, it would create not just parking spaces for the development, but also an additional 565 spaces for public use. These spaces, WSRM explained, would help to finance the creation and maintenance of the green areas. Janet Howard of the Environmental Safety Group said this was a double-edged sword and expressed concern that parking spaces would finance a green area, a concern shared by the Heritage Trust, although it acknowledged the excess number of parking spaces would allow the clearing of surrounding areas of street parking. Heritage Minister John Cortes said this could perhaps allow for the relocation of the car parks, which still exist along the city walls, and allow for their redevelopment into parks. But the strongest critic of the project was perhaps Dion Durham, who represented objectors from the nearby Midtown development. Mr Durham cited the project went against a GSLP manifesto commitment to not build tall structures in the area of the Rooke site. He said the project was also incompatible with the government's environmental and green objectives and labelled the development car-centric. Mr Durham said the new build was more luxury housing and called for the DPC to not support it. He called for more housing over car infrastructure and said the area needed to be developed into a neighbourhood in the Mediterranean idiom, in the character of the old town. Mr Durham said the proposal was a luxury development dressed up as green-friendly and labelled it a pagan lipstick. Members of the DPC also called on the developer to reconsider the project and re-expose the number 4 dock, which could be an asset to the development and the community at large. The proposal to develop the former Rooke site was granted outline planning permission, but with a number of conditions, which the developer must now factor into a redesign. Claire Montado of the Heritage Trust expressed how important it was to get the design, mass and character right for the area, given the substantial footprint it occupied. She said the development would in effect create a new quarter in Gibraltar. Trying to allay the concerns of members of the board, Minister Cortes said the project had only received outline planning permission, and if what came back at a later stage was something the DPC did not like, it would be rejected at the next level.